The season of distance is over. Your soulmate is finally awake. You have been asking why it took so long, why the silence stayed longer than your prayers, why the connection felt real, yet incomplete, why the love you sensed never fully arrived. Listen carefully. This was not rejection, this was preparation. The book of Ecclesiastes says, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." You were not late, they were not lost. The timing was under divine control. You called it distance. Heaven called it alignment. There were things inside you that needed healing, patterns that had to be broken, voices that had to be silenced, fears that had to be exposed. And while you were doing your work, they were asleep. Not physically asleep, but spiritually unaware. The kind of sleep where a person cannot recognize love, where they run from what they prayed for, where they choose confusion over clarity. But something has shifted. Now the same God who kept you waiting has now started waking them up. Ephesians says, "Awake, you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light." This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is awakening. You may not see it yet, but something is happening in their mind, in their heart, in their spirit. The confusion is breaking. The distractions are losing power, the noise is fading. And suddenly, they are beginning to feel what they ignored. They are starting to remember you, not just your face, but your energy, your peace, your truth. They are replaying moments, words you said, silences you shared. Things they once dismissed now feel heavy with meaning. That is not nostalgia. That is awakening, because when God awakens a soul, memory becomes revelation. You see, distance was necessary. If you had come together earlier, you would have broken each other. Because too unhealed. People do not create divine love, they create cycles, and God does not bless cycles, He breaks them. That is why the separation felt painful. It was not punishment. It was protection. The Bible says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." While you were still, God was working. Working on your patience, working on your boundaries, working on your identity. You learned how to stand alone, how to love yourself, how to walk without chasing. And that changed everything. Because you are no longer the same person. You do not beg for attention anymore. You do not settle for confusion. You do not chase what is meant to come. You have grown, and growth shifts. Spiritual contracts. Now the connection is no longer based on need. It is based on alignment. And that is why the awakening is happening now. They can finally meet you where you are before. They could not see your value. Now they cannot ignore it. Before they were distracted. Now they are being redirected. Before they ran. Now they are being pulled back. Because divine timing does not fail. The book of Habakkuk says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come." You waited, you questioned, you almost gave up, but you did not. And that matters, because endurance refines the soul. You were not waiting for them. You were becoming ready, and readiness changes everything. Now listen, this does not mean everything will suddenly be perfect. Awakening is a process. They will feel things they do not understand. They will question themselves. They will struggle with what they avoided, because awakening is uncomfortable. It exposes truth, and truth requires change. So do not expect perfection. Expect honesty. Expect clarity. Expect growth, because real love is not fantasy. It is responsibility. It is choosing each other consciously every day, not out of fear, not out of loneliness, but out of alignment. And that is what God has been preparing. A connection that is not fragile. A love that does not depend on mood. A bond that is rooted in truth. You prayed for this, even when you did not realize it. You asked for real love, and real love requires real transformation. That is why it took time. Because God answers prayers fully, not partially. Now the season is shifting. You may notice signs, unexpected thoughts about them, dreams that feel real, a sense of peace, replacing confusion. These are not coincidences. These are spiritual signals. Because when two souls are aligned by God, there is communication beyond words, and you are both starting to feel it. The distance is losing its power. What once felt like separation is becoming connection again, but this time it is different. There is awareness. There is understanding. There is maturity, and that changes the outcome, because love without awareness fails. But love with awareness grows, the Bible says. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. You have learned to guard your heart. Not by closing it, but by valuing it. And that is why you are ready now. You are not entering this blindly. You are entering with wisdom, and that protects the connection. Now hear this clearly. Do not rush the process. Do not force what God is unfolding. Because what is truly aligned will come without pressure, without confusion, without fear. It will feel peaceful, not perfect, but peaceful, and peace is the confirmation. Because God is not the author of confusion. So if it feels clear, if it feels steady, if it feels right, that is your sign. The season of distance is ending, not because you demanded it, but because it is time. Time for clarity, time for truth, time for connection, and most importantly, time for alignment. Your soulmate is not who they used to be, and neither are you. That is why this can work. Now because both of you have changed, and change creates new outcomes. So do not look at the past, do not measure this moment with old expectations. This is not the same story. This is a new chapter, and it requires a new mindset. Stay grounded, stay aware, stay open, but do not lose yourself. Again, because the love that is meant for you will not require you to disappear. It will require you to be fully present, fully seen, fully valued. And that is what is being prepared. The awakening is real. The shift is happening, and the connection is aligning. Not by chance, but by design. So trust the process, trust the timing, trust what God is doing behind the scenes. Because what is coming is not temporary, it is intentional. And when it arrives, you will understand why everything had to happen the way it did. Why the silence lasted. Why the distance remained. Why the delay was necessary. It was never denial. It was preparation. And now the preparation is complete.